Hey, it's Zach from Us versus Herd, coming back today with another video. So what I want to talk about today is how to build your credit score when you don't have any credit. So let's see what that looks like. So there's a few things we need to understand first before we get to how to do it. And that's to understand how to get your credit score and what's a good credit score. Okay, so first of all, if you have no credit, you're not going to have a score, obviously, but here's some of the ranges here. 300 to 580 is very poor. 581 to 640 poor. 641 to 699 is mediocre. 700 and 750 is good, and 751 to 850 is excellent. So some reasons why you need a good credit score is one, it lowers your interest rate on things like if you were to get a house, or if you were to if they were to check you if you wanted to rent an apartment, they check your credit score to see if it's higher or if it, so basically the whole idea is why they check those, to give you a better interest rate or to see if you're eligible to rent an apartment, is basically a credit score shows them that you're reliable and you'll pay back, or you'll pay rent. But originally a credit score is used to help lenders understand how likely you are to pay them back. So that's why people who want to get an apartment, they check your credit score, because that's how likely you are to pay your rent as well. Other things factor into that, also income, but that's just a couple reasons why you would need to check your credit score to build your credit. So I started building my credit from scratch. So I started basically when I was 18. I started from the very bottom, no score at all. So let's talk about a couple of the things that you can do to do that, as well as finding out your credit score. So the very first thing, if you want a free resource to check your credit score when you do get credit, is creditkarma.com. They don't charge you anything to check your credit scores. They give you all three. So if you don't know, your credit score has three institutions that record it. FICO is the big one. Most places, like if you're gonna go get a car, or you want a loan on a car, you want like a loan on a home or something, the first thing that they're going to check is probably the FICO. That is the truest credit score. But TransUnion and Equifax also report credit scores, and people do check those sometimes. So those are a couple options. There are three credit scores. Then they all may be different. Like I know my credit scores on all three of these are, a couple, could be 20, 30 points different sometimes, depending on, what you got going on. But the big one is the FICO, and that's what most people are going to check on, and that's the truest one anyways, so that'll be your highest score most likely. So if you go to Credit Karma, I mean, we're not sponsored or anything like that, but they do have really good resources. Just as a footnote. Also, let's talk about the things that I did when I first started. So I was a student at a college for 3 days. I went to college for about 3 days. It was a community college. And in that time, I was like, oh, I should build my credit. I applied for a student credit card, and then they called me and asked why I wanted it, and I said I wanted to build credit, and they gave me a really low limit, which most will when you have no credit. And at that time, that's what started my journey in the credit world, and how I started to understand and study this very complex matter that I'm now when I was younger, people told me it was a complex matter. I'm going to simplify it for you guys now. So let's get into it. So where did I find the best value? So for me, my brother had a Discover card, and he was a student, and he was able to get approval with no credit. So I said, maybe I should give it a shot. So this is like my very first credit card, the one on the right here for students. And for whatever reason, they do have like rewards, which is nice because a lot of student cards don't have rewards. So my very best advice for any credit card, you have to know this. This is my top priority. If you are getting a credit card, then what you should be doing if you want to build credit is apply for it, one, and once you get it, you have to set up automatic payment and pay the full statement balance every single month. You should not be spending money you don't have. So like let's say you want to buy like a coffee. Instead of using your debit card, buy it with your credit card, like a $4 coffee, and then have your automatic payments working so that it takes off the full statement balance every month. And that way, instead of paying with your debit card, you're paying with your credit card. You're building credit, and you're only making small purchases. If you make small purchases, it'll still build your credit score. people think they need to put like, they need to buy like expensive things like laptops or anything. Most likely you won't get a credit line high enough to buy a laptop, but the idea is if you just use it, a couple times a month, and it's money that you already have, and then you're just letting it come out of your bank account automatically and not thinking about it, then it's going to automatically build your credit score. One of the biggest things I would say is never carry a balance. If you carry a balance, you're paying interest. And what that means is you're paying more money than what you spent. So if you spent a $4 coffee and your interest rate is 13% and you didn't pay back in the first month, then the next month you're paying 13% more than you would have than if you just paid it in full statement balance. So most people don't know that. Most people don't know that if you pay off your full statement balance every single month, you don't pay interest and you get rewards. So this is basically free money at that point. For me, I have a lot of different credit cards, and to be able to have them all on taking out per month, if I spend any money on them, I only spend money that I have. That's number one. And two, I have it automatically come out of my bank account every month, so I don't have to worry about late fees. So that's another thing. If you also are late, then your credit score is going to go down. So starting from scratch, you have to apply for a credit card. This seems to be the easiest one because I know me and my brother got it pretty easy, and we didn't have any credit score at all. We had started with nothing. And they called us and asked us why they wanted it. If you give a good answer is always, I want to build my credit score. Then they will probably issue this credit card. They ask you for some proof of being a student as well. I was not a student for very long, but I didn't know I wasn't going to be a student for very long. So I didn't do it intentionally, but here is the card that I got. It should be pretty easy. You can apply, and they ask you a lot of questions. And they usually give you approval right away, or not at all. They'll call you. It depends. Either it's right away or they'll call you and they ask you some questions. So you have to pretty much kind of work the system for that. So that's another thing. That's one option I would say. Now, if you don't get, and now there are other student credit cards out there, but if you don't get a student credit card, there is one other option, and that is going to be the secured credit card. So what is a secured credit card? So a secured credit card is a credit card basically that a bank issues or like a credit institution issues, and your credit limit is only as high as the money you put in. So for example, if you have a secured credit card and you want to be able to have the leeway to spend $500 in that card, then you have to put down $500. You have to pay $500 and give it to the bank. So when you have to pay the money to them, and then they give you a credit line based on how much you gave them. Some of them have minimums and some of them have maximums. Like, for example, some of them you can't put any more than a certain amount on there. That basically ensures that if you're late, since you don't have a credit score, that ensures that if you're late on a payment, they'll just take the money that you gave them and use that money. That way they don't run out of money. So most credit institutions don't, when you get a credit card, most credit cards don't make you pay an amount in order to get the credit line. But however, if you have a secured credit card, it's called secured because you have to pay money in order to get that credit line in case you're ever late or do not pay on time, that they take the money straight out of the money that you gave them. So this is a good way to build credit if you don't have any. If you can't get a student card or you're not a student, then yes, this is your other option, I would say. Other option is to find it. So if you don't, NerdWallet is also a good resource for finding good credit cards. They'll give you reasons, pros and cons, and tell you all the information pretty plainly here. So never have a credit card with an annual fee, especially if it's a secured credit card. I mean, there are a few out there that have good benefits, but that's more of an expert level. If mostly you're looking for a 0 annual fee, and you don't have to worry about this APR because that is your annual percentage rate. That is the amount of interest you're paying. 24.99%. Now it's really, really high. So this is why you absolutely cannot be carrying a balance. When I say carrying a balance, it means that you don't pay it off every month. If you pay off what you spent every single month, you do not pay interest. You just pay what you spent, and that builds your credit just fine. I know that's because that's exactly how I built my credit from 0 up into the upper 700s where it is now. And being 22, being in the upper 700s is not common, not at all. Mostly people are really low or do not have a credit score at my age. So you want to make sure that you're not getting an annual fee. And if it is a high APR, if it is a higher interest rate, and you don't plan on paying it off every month, then you probably shouldn't be having a credit card. Just if you're not ready to build credit by just paying it off every month, then don't get a credit card, because it will destroy your financial future. If you just spend it willy-nilly and you're getting, so you can spend, $1,000 or more or something like that, then building your credit is not for you. And there's a couple others on here, like Discover has one, which is interesting, is a secured credit card, but it looks like their recommended credit score is a little higher. So I don't know if this is the best choice. They said Capital One here is probably the best, which I agree is probably. Capital One is very low entry, so it's very good easy to get in. I would also say, though, you have to be careful on what you get, though. If it has an annual fee, just remember that your very first account or your very first credit card, you will have your whole life, because if you were to cancel that later on in life, then it'll affect your credit score. I'll get into that in another video, but for now, I'm just telling you that whatever you pick, you want to make sure that it doesn't have an annual fee, because this credit card you'll most likely have for most of your life, because it has a large impact on your credit score if you were to get rid of it later on. So that's just a couple ideas here. One thing I want to touch on really quick is you do not want to use a credit builder loan. So what is that? So basically, you would go to a lending institution that lends these credit builder loans, and they would give you amount of money based on what you want to purchase. Like, let's say you want to buy a laptop, and then you would get a loan, and then you would buy the item you wanted to buy. So let's say they gave you $1,200 to buy a MacBook or something, and you purchase the MacBook. So now you owe that money back, and if you're late, you pay interest on that. So you pay more money than you actually intended to pay for the laptop. So and if you don't have credit, which people say, oh, credit builder loans are really good for building credit because you don't have any credit, so you might want to get a loan to buy something. I disagree wholeheartedly. You don't need to spend money to build your credit. You need to spend money, but you don't need to spend thousands of dollars or $1,000 or $500. You can spend $4 one month, $5 another month, $6 another month, $10. It'll build your credit score just the same, and you don't need to pay interest. And you do that by getting a student credit card or a secured credit card. You do not want to put yourself in more debt than you have to, and you do not want to put yourself in a position where it's going to make it more difficult to build your score. Because if you're wrapped up $1,200 in a loan, then you're not going to be worrying about getting a credit line. And also, what this doesn't do is this is not a long-term getting a credit builder loan is not a long-term build. What I mean by that is, on your credit score, you have credit accounts and a credit line issued to you, and a lot of factors that play into that. At this point, when you have a credit builder loan, you're paying back a loan. It's not a credit line of extension. Like, you don't have that as available credit. It's a debt. So you're paying it back. You're not getting, that credit is not issued to you. I mean, it's not available credit, it's used up credit. And I highly discourage the uses of a credit builder loan. It's much better to, if you're going to spend any kind of money like to build your credit, get a secured credit card if you're not a student. If you are a student, then please, this is the best option. A student credit card will be your easiest and lowest point of entry, because they don't expect you to have any credit, and they don't expect much of you, and you'll be able to get it without having to put down $200, $300, $400, $500 to get a secured credit line. All you have to do is apply. They'll probably call you and ask why you want it. Just tell them you're trying to build your credit score, and they'll respect that, and they'll probably approve you. I'm not saying they will, but it's possible, and definitely probable, as I have seen it. And Discover, like I said, is a good entry point for that. Or Capital One, if you're doing a secured credit card, would be your best entry point. Like I said, if you go to NerdWallet, they have a lot of cool credit cards and financial tips, and they'll show you all the things you need to know pretty easily. And this is for my pick for student cards. This Discover it right here on the right. I never had this one, but I know this one's easier to get, at least for what I've seen. I know that I've gotten it, and I didn't have any credit, so that's good. And at least this is a groundwork for you to get started. So like I said, step one, find out how you're going to get it. So if you're a student, then you're going to apply for a student credit card. If you're not a student, you're going to apply for a secured credit card and never use a credit builder loan. It's a disaster. Also, when you first start, always pay your full statement balance off. Never carry a balance, or else you're paying more money than whatever you bought on that credit card was worth. And that's just wasting money. You're just bleeding money at that point, and you're not getting anything in. So, like I said, step 1, get the credit card. Step 2, make sure you put your automatic payments on full statement balance. Step 3, buy something small every month, like a coffee, one thing, some school supplies or whatever you want. Just don't spend a lot of money. Don't spend $100, $200, $300. Your credit line is most likely very small. Mine was $500, my very first one, which is very, very small. But you want to keep your amount low, the amount that you spend on it very low, because the more of your impact, or the more of your credit that you use up, the higher the impact it has on your credit score, and the lower it'll make it. So if you bought something that's $200 and you have a $500 credit line, that's almost half. It's going to negatively impact your credit score. But if you spend a little bit, like $4 here, $4 there, then your credit score is going to gradually improve. And that's how you start it from the ground up. If you guys have any questions, leave it in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to our channel. We have tons of videos on personal finance and trading and news and live trades, and we have tons of things coming out for you guys. So please subscribe, stick around for a while, and we'll see you guys next time. Just remember, it's us versus herd, so join us.